ain't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Eevee and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, the Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, so before we get into today's video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap that notification bell. That way you don't miss out on any of my videos, especially videos like these, because YouTube likes to pretend that they don't exist sometimes. Also, hit that like button because it really helps me out in the algorithm, actually puts this video out in front of more eyes, just like yours. And if you want to see more videos just like these, hit that button and you'll get just that. Anyway, we are going to be talking about ThunderCats Apex #1. This is a one-shot that I actually talked about with Ed Brisson, the writer for this. Did a live stream talking with him about this, as well as his upcoming Silverhawk series, which I'm sorry, I'm just so excited for. But yeah, we're not here to talk about Silverhawks just yet. Trust me, we will very soon. But we are here to talk about the new ThunderCats Apex. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and say right now, I talked about this on some level before with the previous ThunderCats video. We're gonna kind of quarter this video off. We're gonna have a non-spoiler section, and then we're gonna have a spoiler section, because I'm going to tell you guys right now, there's something I actually talked about in that previous video, and if I can find the clip for it, roll it now. He seems to have an eye of Thundera on his person. He also seems to have the patented gauntlet that Lion-O tends to wear when he wields the Sword of Omens. So it becomes this situation where it makes you wonder who this is. They are being obscured, and I'm pretty sure there's a very good reason for why we never see this character's face. While it is stated that Apex is a new character, part of me wonders if this might be somebody else entirely, maybe even somebody familiar. So in this video, I'm going to address that clip and some things that pertain to that. Also, some things that Ed Brisson also said in our interview. And I want to, if we have the clip, do we have it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, play it.
So at first, when Nate reached out, I thought it was that, and he offered me Apex, which I thought was a, when he pitched me the idea, I was really into it.
The way I'm going to do this video is, first, I just want to talk about just some things non-spoiler related about this comic real quick, and it's mainly just how much I love it. Third Earth is the type of place that if you only watch the ThunderCats cartoon, I would forgive you, especially if you haven't watched it recently. Yeah, Third Earth seems like a pretty barren place. So to see that there's like a greater world out there that exist in the ThunderCats backyard, you effectively kind of have to look at it though, where the ThunderCats live on Third Earth is basically a wasteland. It's like the boonies, but there is, or at least are, actual places out there that exist, like townships and things of that nature. We saw bits and pieces of stuff like this in the animated series, and even, I would even dare say to a greater extent in the 2011 series as well. But here, yeah, this is a Western through and through. And that's actually something Ed, kind of gave me a heads up about when I spoke with him. And it was that, yeah, this is a Western style story. This is a high plains drifter type of a character type deal going on here, where we're witnessing this new character Apex, and he is traveling the wastelands of Third Earth, and he's in search of something. And it's kind of funny because I want to kind of revisit this just a little bit. One of the things that came up, and I believe this was roughly around issue 4, is that the Book of Omens seemed to have been left out in the middle of the waste of Third Earth, and we now know who has it. Technically, we've kind of already known. It's come up bits and pieces here, but like we actually get to see it in action here with Apex. Apex is the one who has his hands on the Book of Omens, and which is basically a tome of all the secrets and the future of Thundera, as well as of Third Earth, to maybe even a greater extent. And Apex, the reason why is it was kind of hinted in, I believe it was ThunderCats #8, I believe it was, where Apex kind of technically made his debut. In that, we saw that he had knowledge of events that only someone who was close to the ThunderCats would potentially have, but we didn't know who he was. He seemed to be aware of certain things. He seemed to know things that were going to happen that had not yet come to pass, and he was also able to insert himself into the past of Thundera when Tigra was sent backwards in time to before Thundera's fall. Apex was able to appear there. And he also seemed to have knowledge of certain weaponry that was available during that time frame and what it would ultimately become. We knew that he was aware that the Sword of Plundar was in disguise, and that was a whole thing. Now we know that it is in the hands of Slive, and Slive has kind of found his own way. We'll actually have I'm gonna do a separate video to talk about Slive. I'm not gonna talk about him here. There's some really cool stuff that comes up with him, but we'll get to that. I promise you, we'll get to that. Apex walks in. He's the badass in the room. He's the guy that yeah, these other bad guys are going to talk some shit. They're going to act all out of pocket and, try to get one over on him. But at the end of the day, Apex is that dude. He's going to get that ass. And it's basically what happens here. I mean, it's great. I love it. I think it's fantastic. And yeah, Apex is a bad mamma jamma. That's all I'm gonna say about that for right now. Before we get into spoiler territory, there is something ThunderCats related that I think you should want to know about. And if you are a fan of ThunderCats like I am, whether you're a fan of the 2011 series, the original series, the old comics, especially the comics, let me tell you, it just so happens the original Marvel Comics ThunderCat series is on backer kit right now. Granted, these are no longer at Marvel Comics anymore, but Dynamite is re-releasing these and putting them out there for all the world to be able to get their hands on, albeit for a limited time. If you have been around long enough for me to talk about the Gargoyles collection that they put together, all the old Gargoyles comics that they collected into hardcovers, or G.I. Joe just kind of recently had this happen with their original G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero comics. Well, Dynamite is now doing something very similar with ThunderCats. They're taking that original Marvel Comics run and collecting it into a hardbound cover comic. They're going to be released in 2 different volumes, collecting everything all together. And you can go on backer kit right now. I got the link down below. I mean, you do with that what you will. It's really more of a public service announcement than it is anything else, because I would love for people to actually get their hands on stuff like this. I was actually really heartbroken that I missed out on the Gargoyles collected editions. So yeah, I also technically missed out on the G.I. Joe ones, but that was more just due to me having a slip of the mind. But the Gargoyles ones I missed because I didn't find out about them until it was already over. But now I will definitely say, yeah, if I were you and you want something like this, jump on it now. I think as of the time of this recording, there are 32 days left on the backer kit. So, hey, you know what you got to do. Go do the thing. That said, let's get into the spoileriness of it all. So who is Apex? Now I want to go back to the clip that I played earlier.
So at first when Nate reached out, I thought it was that, and he offered me Apex, which I thought was when he pitched me the idea, I was really into it. It's pretty exciting. And because it's a new ThunderCats character. It's not someone we've seen before.
Ed wasn't necessarily lying, but he wasn't exactly telling the truth either. How many of y'all remember the Arkham Knight game? Batman Arkham Knight. It was the 3rd and final game in the main line. I'm not counting Batman Arkham Origins, because that was not Rocksteady proper. That was Warner Brothers Montreal that did that one. This, as far as Rocksteady goes, it was the 3rd of the Batman Arkham games, and in that they made this huge proclamation that the Arkham Knight was a new character, not someone that you've seen before. And for those of you who have played that game,
so that was a fucking lie.
And it's kind of the same here. In this particular case, we learn Apex is one of the ThunderCats. As a matter of fact, he's actually the guy that makes the most sense. He's Lion-O, albeit he's a future version of Lion-O, a Lion-O that is from a much later down the road timeline and has witnessed the destruction of the ThunderCats, and he wants to undo it. He wants to make things right, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to do that. Now, to go back a little bit, it all makes that much more sense that it is Lion-O. Going back and looking at the benefit of hindsight, if you actually look at Lion-O, and maybe this has something to do with why there are some slight differences in the way things are playing out in this universe's version of the ThunderCats. And it's more just to say that look at Apex's costume. His costume is very reminiscent of the original Lion-O costume from the animated series, albeit the little flap that hangs over his crotch hangs lower. I think in the original animated series, it was just some blue tighties. But, you know, here it's something that kind of drapes down before him, but it is very much the same layout as, you know, from his costume. He also has the patented ThunderCats gauntlet that Lion-O often carries. He wears Lion-O's colors, so yeah, it actually makes sense that it is Lion-O. But the reason he covers his face is because his face has been deformed. We see that one of his eyes has gotten incredibly large. Now, another thing that is the elephant to address in the room is why he's wrapped in bandages, and also why he calls himself a very specific name. He refers to himself as Apex, the Ever-Living. Does that sound familiar to you?
Ancient spirits of evil, transform this decayed form to Mum-Ra, the Ever-Living!
Yeah, that's why. This seems to, and I even said this when we initially saw first looks at Apex back on the Blerd cave. You know, God, I don't remember exactly when that was precisely, but it was a while ago. And one of the first things I thought was like, man, this guy's rocking a cloak and bandages very similar to Mum-Ra. And that's for a very good reason. I don't know if he's an amalgam of himself and Mum-Ra, or if he absorbed Mum-Ra in some way, or maybe Mum-Ra possessed him in some way, shape, form, or fashion, or maybe he stole Mum-Ra's powers in some way. But this is a Lion-O who's capable of channeling Mum-Ra's power, able to transmogrify himself into a much more muscular and powerful form, no differently than Mum-Ra could, but otherwise walks around shielding himself in a red cloak. Now, in this case, he's wearing that hood to cover up his face so that people don't recognize him. But yeah, this is Lion-O through and through. Something had to have happened at the end of the timeline that just messed everything up. And this is a Lion-O who's trying to put things back to rights. At least it seems that way. And you can tell this guy has been down through there. You can tell he's been down through there. He is, and like, once again, it also makes even more sense considering the fact that he was able to access the treasury of the ThunderCats, which is really something only ThunderCats should be able to access. So it makes even more sense that he was, in fact, a ThunderCat. What's even more disturbing is what it is that he plans to do. Now, over the course of this issue, he encounters classic ThunderCats characters like Driller and Mole Master, but also he encounters something that the ThunderCats were not aware existed on Third Earth. At least they don't know that it exists yet, and that's Thundranium. Mole Master has been mining for it, and he has found plenty of it, seemingly. And Lion-O is taking control of Mole Master's operation, who he was also working with Driller in this, you know, to the surprise of no one. But yes, they were working together on this, albeit it seemed to be a deal that Mole Master didn't find very favorable. But just the same, he is now taking over that operation, having completely excommunicated both Driller and Mole Master the hard way. He is now the Apex. He is now the ultimate ThunderCat, and he seems to be preparing for war. He says as much, that war is coming, that there is going to be a huge battle, and this time he's not going to be caught slipping. At the end of the day, I'm not the hugest fan of when storytellers or publishers say that, oh, this is a new character, you've never seen this character before, and then come to find out you actually have seen this character before. But I will definitely say it's technically not untrue. We've never seen this future version of Lion-O before. And honestly, this is a version of Lion-O so different from Lion-O as we know him, that yeah, he kind of is a new character. Like, if you look at Arkham Knight, they claimed up and down was not Jason Todd. They openly said that specifically it was not Jason Todd, and then proceeded to say it was a new character. But it wasn't the case. And honestly, while technically it was a new story, it was basically retreading a lot of ground from Death in the Family and Under the Red Hood. So basically, it was Jason Todd, and it was pretty much the same story, albeit they added in the whole Arkham Knight thing to throw everyone off the scent. Here, they're not really doing that. This is not the same Lion-O. So here, it actually makes more sense to say it is a new character, because technically it is. This is future Lion-O that we have never met. So I'm much more willing to let Ed Brisson cook with this one, because at least here there is something different on offer. There is the promise of something fresh, even if it is a face that is incredibly familiar. I've read a lot of Ed Brisson's work, so I know that he's not just gonna throw up some bullshit. This is a guy who has written some of my favorite X-Men stories and a lot of other things that I have also enjoyed that were not Big Two comics. Maybe I'll do a video for it because I've never talked about these books in their entirety on the channel before, but I always like to point people to some of his non-Big Two work like Beyond the Breach and There's Something Wrong with Patrick Todd. Ed knows how to write a compelling story. And while I initially had my reservations about Apex, I was already kind of warming up to the character just based on his appearance in ThunderCats number 8. Now, I am even more on board with this character. My only concern is that I hope that Apex becomes a popular character enough that, you know, people who are longtime fans of the ThunderCats put respect on his name. But I hope, and I don't think Dynamite will do this. I don't think Declan or Ed or anyone else will do this either. But I really hope that with Apex, we don't get another Batman who laughs. And what I mean by that is a character who is really cool, is an awesome concept, but then just doesn't go away and becomes oversaturated. That's the thing I'm afraid of for Apex. But Dynamite is a whole different animal than Marvel or DC. If this was a Marvel or DC comic, oh, best believe, we would get sick of Apex. We would get sick of Apex. I have a lot of faith in this. I think this is going to turn out to be a lot better than people initially thought it was. I think it's going to wind up being something pretty damn special.